What? Are you seriously? You've got to press record the moment I have food in my mouth. Is that seriously always the plan? Greetings, denizens of the internet. This is Brian Carey, the Savvy Barbarian. Well, we've all seen those videos with the top 10 most overpowered monsters. This is going to be the top 10 most overpowered monsters that are very low level and capable of wiping out your level 1, 2, maybe level 4 party and just laying them out flat. You think your party is safe fighting some skeletons, but you whip in something with a challenge rating of 2 or heck, even 1/4, and the next thing you know, you've done a total party kill. Oops. Be sure to like and subscribe. I am the Savvy Barbarian. Stay tuned. As we dive into our top 10 list of the most overpowered tiny monsters, first I want to say a quick word about challenge rating. Challenge rating is the level of the monster as it pertains to the level of the party. So if you've got a level 2 party, that meaning, say, 4 party members, and they're all level 2, a challenge rating of 2 for a monster should be a good challenge for them, but not a fatality. So as I go through these, I'm going to point out creatures and assume that the party is at the challenge rating of the monster. Overall, I think the challenge rating system is pretty good. It helps the Dungeon Master put together a reasonably good challenge for the party, gauging where the party is at, but the system's not perfect. And here are 10 monsters that completely break the rules. Number 11. That's right, this list is so overpowered, this top 10 list has 11 creatures on it. Coming in at 11th place is the Allosaurus. A dinosaur. That's right, the rest of these monsters are so powerful, the dinosaur doesn't even come in at first place. Sorry, Jurassic Park. Dinosaurs are scary and deadly, and he's placed here in 11th place as a sort of a sorbet to clear the palate. The Allosaurus has an armor class of 13. That's not incredibly high, so he is hittable. And he comes in with 51 hit points on average. Might be a little higher, might be a little lower, but he's got about twice the hit points of your level 2 party. Incidentally, the Allosaurus has +6 to hit. Now, that's pretty high for a challenge rating 2 creature. That means every time you roll the 20-sided dice for an attack roll, he gets to add 6. I'll warrant that's more than any of your players at that level. So the Allosaurus doesn't have an unnatural amount of armor class or a ridiculous amount of hit points. So why does he make the list? Well, he's got this ability called Pounce. So this dinosaur charges your party from 30 feet away. He does a claw attack. And that claw attack does, on average, 8 points of damage. So far, you're still alive, but then you have to roll a DC 13 strength saving throw to see if you can avoid being knocked down. If you are knocked prone, then the Allosaurus gets a free bite attack as a bonus action. This one hurts a little more, and since you're knocked prone, he gets to roll with advantage. On average, the bite attack does 15 points of damage. Remember, most of your players at this level only have about 20 hit points. The Allosaurus gets his +6 to attack, and he's rolling with advantage, so he's probably going to hit you with that bite attack, and when he does, on average he will do 15 points of damage. For a grand total of 23 points of damage, and he's just one-shot your character. That's right, one of your players has kicked the oxygen habit. Number 10. In 10th place is a robotic construct known as the Quadrone. Madrones and Quadrones, by extension, are robotic beings that adhere to absolute law. They're neutral, but they have a hive mentality, and they do exactly what they're programmed to do. Break a single law, and this creature will attack you. He's got an armor class of 16, making him actually harder to hit than the dinosaur we just talked about. And while his hit points at 22 aren't particularly high, his attack is. The Quadrone can make 2 fist attacks, or 4 bow attacks. If he attacks with his bow, each one of those attacks gets +4 to hit and does, on average, 5 points of damage. 4 times 5 is 20, and this challenge rating 1 creature does 20 points of damage to your level 1 party member, who probably has about 10 hit points. It's called Overkill. Number 9. In 9th place is the Scarecrow. This is a challenge rating 1 creature, meaning you have 4 level 1 players, and this should be a decent challenge for them. Granted, this creature was designed to scare birds, however, it has the ability to wipe out your party, and here's how. It only has an armor class 11, so that's actually pretty weak. You should be able to hit this guy fairly easily. But he has 36 hit points. That's closing in on 4 times what your level 1 party members have. And while he is vulnerable to fire, he is resistant to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical weapons. He's immune to poison, and he is immune to being charmed, exhausted, frightened, paralyzed, poisoned, or unconscious. Wow. But the problem with the Scarecrow is that he can level what's called a terrifying glare at you. If you fail the saving throw against this terrifying glare, you acquire the status Frightened. Once you're frightened, of course, you have disadvantage on all ability checks and attack rolls. That's not good. Also, you can't move toward the source of your fear, in this case, the Scarecrow. And then he has a multi-attack. That's right, a challenge rating 1 creature with multi-attack. He can attack you 2 times with his claw attack. Each one of those does 6 points of damage, so he can easily unload, and this is just the average, 6 points of damage on average, so he can easily do 12 points of damage to your level 1 character, who probably has about 10 hit points, and he's also one-shot your character. But things are about to get much, much worse. Number 8. In 8th place we have the Death Dog. This is a challenge rating 1 creature, so each of your party members has about 10 hit points, and they come across this 2-headed mongrel, and things start to get real ugly. The Death Dog is 1 creature whose bite is actually worse than his bark. His armor class is a paltry 12, so he can be hit, but he has 40 health points, compared to your party which probably has about 10 each. The trick with this creature is he has a multi-attack. He can do 2 bites. Each one of these bites, he gets +4 to attack, but does on average 5 points of damage. So you're thinking 10 points of damage, he's not as bad as the Allosaurus or as the Quadrone that we just talked about. Once you're bitten, however, is when things start to get very interesting, because now you're probably going to be poisoned. If you fail the strength-based saving throw, suddenly you are poisoned, and every 24 hours that elapse, you have to repeat that saving throw, and it reduces your maximum hit points by 5 on average. It's a 1d10 roll every 24 hours until the disease is cured or until it kills you. Once your hit points get down to 0, of course, you are dead. And if your character ends up going to hell, I'm assuming this Death Dog will be waiting for you there to fight you a second time. Number 7. In 7th place is the Spectre. He has an armor class of 12, again very hittable, and he only has 22 hit points. And this challenge rating 1 creature means your party's probably level 1, your party members probably have around 10 hit points, so it looks like a pretty fair fight. Your party should be able to take this guy out. However, check out all the things this creature is immune or resistant to. He is resistant, meaning he takes half damage to acid, cold, fire, lightning, thunder, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical weapons. He's immune to necrotic and poison. He is immune to charmed, exhaustion, grappled, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, prone, restrained, and being knocked unconscious. Furthermore, he has a speed of 50, and he can fly through other creatures and other objects to keep coming after you. And if all that wasn't bad enough, here's the kicker. This creature also has an attack called Life Drain. Now, Life Drain gets a +4 to hit, and it does, on average, 10 points of necrotic damage. Again, this is a level 1, this is a challenge rating 1 creature, so your level 1 party members probably have somewhere between 8 and 12 hit points, and he's going to hit you for 10 necrotic damage. But then, the target of his destruction must succeed on a DC 10 Constitution saving throw. Failing that, your character's maximum hit points, not the hit points that they're at, but their new maximum, has just been reduced by the amount of damage taken. Ouch. Also, if your player's maximum hit points make it down to 0, your player dies. No 3 chances at death saving throws. Your player just died. And good luck hitting him with weapons, because he's immune to everything. Slashing, piercing, and bludgeoning? What else are your level 1 characters carrying anyways? How are you going to hit this guy? I hope your insurance is paid. Number 6. In 6th place we have Shadows. Shadows are Oh, things just keep getting worse here. Shadows are a challenge rating of 1/2. This assumes that we're going to put 2 shadows in to make it a challenge rating 1 for your level 1 party. Your level 1 party, as I said, probably has 8 to 12 hit points, and this shadow has an armor class of 12. So he's very hittable, but check out this list. While he's vulnerable to radiant attacks, he is resistant to acid, cold, fire, lightning, thunder, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical weapons, is immune to necrotic and poison, and he is immune to exhaustion, frightened, grappled, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, prone, and he cannot be restrained. Good luck hitting this guy. And at challenge rating 1/2, he only has about 16 hit points. So that sounds like he should be able to be hit, if you can actually hit him. But here's where the shadow gets really evil. He has an attack called Strength Drain. He gets +4 to hit, which is really high when you consider this is a challenge rating 1/2. And when he hits you, he hits for 9 points of damage. Your level 1 guy probably only has around that much health, and that's just 1 hit. Oh, but that's not all. After your player takes 9 necrotic damage, the player has to roll the 4-sided dice. That's how much his maximum strength is reduced by until he is dead. It eats away at your strength until you're dead? Are you kidding me right now? That's right. Each time this guy hits you, and it should only take once or twice, every time he touches you, you roll another 4-sided dice, and your strength goes down by that amount. If your strength is reduced to 0, you are dead. No strength saving throws. Wad up your character sheet, make a new one. Number 5. In 4th place is the Banshee. Banshee has an armor class of 12, making it reasonably hittable, as long as you can get through the fact that it is resistant to acid, fire, lightning, thunder, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical weapons, immune to cold, necrotic, and poison, and immune to charmed, exhaustion, frightened, grappled, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, prone, and restrained. This is the highest challenge rating creature on my list, with a challenge rating of 4. Your level 4 party probably has between 40 and 50 hit points. And this creature has 58 hit points. So, if you can find a way to hurt it, you should be able to take it down. It has +4 to hit and does 12 on average necrotic damage. That in itself might be survivable. The problem is this thing has a function called Wail. Once per day, it can do this evil thing. She wails, and then all creatures within 30 feet of her have to make a DC 13 Constitution saving throw. If you fail, your hit points drop to 0. And even if you succeed, you take on average 10 more points of psychic damage. So conceivably, everything within 30 feet of the Banshee just dropped dead. How is this thing level 4? This creature can one-shot your entire party in 1 turn. Hope you brought those extra character sheets with you, because you're gonna need them. And while the Wail is something it can only do once per day, it also has a thing called Horrifying Visage. You have to succeed at a DC 13 Wisdom saving throw, and if you fail, you'll be frightened for 1 minute. This gives you disadvantage on all saving throws and attack rolls. And while you do have a chance to recover from frightened by re-rolling your saving throw at the end of each of your turns, this potentially puts your characters out of the fight for the next 10 rounds. Oh. Number 4. In 4th place is the Will-O-Wisp. Man, I hate these things. So they just look like a little ball of light floating off in the distance, like a happy little lantern, and all is good. Nothing could be further from the truth. These creatures are challenge rating 2, so you've got a group of 4 people at level 2 in your party, and they see happy little lanterns bouncing out in the distance. These little blighters have an armor class of 19 at challenge rating 2, meaning they are exceedingly difficult to hit. And while they only have 22 hit points, they are immune to lightning and poison and resistant to acid, cold, fire, necrotic, thunder, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical weapons, and immune to exhaustion, grappled, paralyzed, poisoned, prone, restrained, and unconscious. Did I mention they can turn invisible? Did I mention they can also float through other creatures and through other walls, and have a travel speed of 50, so you can't outrun them? They have a lovely shock effect with +4 to hit that does, on average, 9 points of lightning damage to your character. Keep in mind, while you're fighting this creature, you probably have around 20 hit points. So if you can find a way to hit this thing with its armor class of 19 and resistance to almost everything, once it knocks you down to 0 hit points, it has a lovely thing called Consume Life. You have to succeed on a DC 10 Constitution saving throw or die. That's right, there's no 3 life saves this time, no 3 successes or deaths. It just kills you. Bonus, it also takes 10 of your health and adds it to its own to make it more challenging for the remaining surviving players. I hate these things. Number 3. In third place, the Intellect Devourer. These things look like a little brain with dog legs. They're about as homely a creature as you can get. And they're so wimpy. They're only challenge rating 2. What could possibly go wrong? Armor class of 12? Yeah, you can hit that. 21 hit points. You've probably got players with more health than that. It has damage resistances to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical weapons. This thing can detect you within 300 feet of wherever you are. Anything with an intelligence higher than 3, it can find you. It has a lovely multi-attack, where it first attacks with claws and then does a thing called Devour Intellect. You have to succeed on a DC 12 intelligence saving throw. Failing that, you roll the 6-sided dice 3 times. If that total meets or exceeds your character's intelligence, your intelligence drops to 0 and you are out of the fight. Since you're now stunned, you're incapacitated. You can't move, you can't communicate, you can't do anything. You automatically fail every strength and dexterity saving throw. All attacks against you are done with advantage. But here's where things start to get really evil. This thing does a trick called Body Thief. So once you're incapacitated from the previous Devour Intellect attack, this creature does an intellect challenge against you. If you lose it, it teleports into your skull, devours your brain, and then takes over your body. The implications to your character are staggering. Do you realize what happens? You now have to fight another character. Well, you have to fight your buddy now, who has an Intellect Devourer in his skull. If you do manage to kill your buddy, he's dead. If you do manage to get the Intellect Devourer out of your buddy's head, he doesn't have a brain anymore, so he's dead. If your players don't recognize that this is an Intellect Devourer and understand what this creature can do, this thing is a nightmare. This thing is way more lethal than anybody gives it credit for. It keeps its intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, but other than that, it adopts all the abilities and memories and things that the host body currently has. The Monster Manual actually recommends that you use a Wish spell to get the Intellect Devourer out of the creature's head. A Wish spell is level 9. That's as high as it gets. Face one of these at level 2, you better kill it right away or you are done for. Number 2. In second place is the Gray Ooze, one of the gelatinous cubes. When this thing's minding its own business, it has a +2 to stealth, and it just looks like some oil laying on the ground, or maybe a wet stone. It's very easy for this creature to sneak up on your level 1 players, because its challenge rating is only 1/2. This means there's probably 2 of these things floating around. It has an armor class of 8. You should be able to hit this thing with one arm tied behind your back. And it only has an intelligence of 1, so it's not much smarter than a rock. But if you do hit it, there's a problem. Any non-magical attack made against this creature with anything made of metal, that weapon takes a permanent -1 to its attack rating. If your weapon gets up to a -5 penalty, that weapon breaks. It's disintegrated. It corrodes any metal that touches it. When it attacks you, it gets +3 to attack and does on average only 4 points of damage. However, it also does 7 acid damage. Your armor begins to degrade, and your non-magical metal armor begins to corrode at a rate of -1 penalty towards your armor class every time it touches you. When your armor gets down to 10, your armor is gone, and you're running through your dungeon naked. Remember the days when you had a weapon and you had armor? Yeah, those days are long behind you. Even if you survive the Grey Ooze, what are you going to do in this dungeon with no weapon and no armor? Oh yeah, this thing is also resistant to acid, cold, fire, and is immune to blinded, charmed, deafened, exhausted, frightened, and can't be knocked prone. You may have a great idea to just run in the other room and escape this thing and slam the door on it, but it can squeeze through spaces as small as an inch without squeezing. Better come up with a plan, boys. This is not looking good. How is this thing challenge rating 1/2? And if you get a little further down the road, this thing has a big brother called Black Pudding. It's a challenge rating 4, and it does everything that the Grey Ooze could do, except it hits a little bit harder. This thing does 6 bludgeoning damage, and it does 18 on average acid damage. If you hit it with lightning or slashing damage, it will actually split into 2 Black Puddings. If you hit either one of those with lightning or slashing damage, it will again split into 2 smaller size Black Puddings. You may now have 4 Black Puddings. Of course, you're getting hit 4 times instead of only once per round, and that damage is going to add up really fast. What a nightmare this thing is! Number 1. And in the top spot, the Fire Snake. That's right, this is a snake that's the size of a full-grown man. Its challenge rating, 1. So, if you've got 4 first-level party members and they fight this thing, it's bad. It's immune to fire, vulnerable to cold, and resistant to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical weapons. It has an armor class of 14, so you should be able to hit it, but there's a problem. When you hit it, you take fire damage. Any creature that touches or attacks the fire snake takes 1d6, or on average 3 points, of fire damage every single time. It hurts you to hurt it. When it attacks you, it makes 2 attacks, one with its bite and one with its tail. The bite does approximately 3 points of damage on average. It's a 1d4 plus 1, but you also take 3 more damage due to fire. Then there's the tail attack, another 3 damage, another 1d4, and you take 3 more fire damage, for a total of 12 points of damage, and your level 1 character is probably dead. And when you attack it, if you're not dead already, you probably will be. Worst monster ever. And to add insult to injury, once you're dead, it eats you. And that wraps up our top 10 list. These are the top 10, 11 most deadly, low-level creatures that can TPK your entire party. Let me know down in the trumpery here whether or not you agreed with my list. If you've got any that you think that I overlooked and should have made the list, and if there's anything that you think didn't belong there, I'd love to hear from you. And now you must appease the YouTube gods by clicking the like button. I think it's right down here someplace. That looks like about right. And then click the subscribe button. Don't forget to click the bell or you won't be notified when new videos come out. At some point, I'm probably going to have a Patreon or Subscribestar account. And then I'm going to put your name on that chalkboard back there in the background, right? See right about there? Yeah, that's the one. I'm going to put your name right there. It's going to be really cool. But until then, the best way to support this channel is to click like and subscribe. And if it's something that you really like to do, if you like the Dungeons & Dragons style stories, I've got some books for sale. The first one's a free ebook download. Go visit briancarybooks.com and purchase a couple books. You might put $5 in my pocket, and I'd really appreciate it. This is Brian Carey reminding you to be a scholar and a barbarian.